Good morning, students. Welcome to online class. Hope you are keeping well by the grace of God. So students, once again I am with you, and today I am going to teach you social science, history segment, chapter 4 in your book, and the heading is Tribals, Tiku, Vision of Golden Age. So guys, today we will discuss about the tribals, their lifestyle and their origin. So in India, the term indigenous group or a collective group. Guys, you open the notebook and you note down the spelling indigenous. INDIGENOUS. So in India, this indigenous group or a collective group is known as Adivasis. And these Adivasis, they are fond of staying aloof from the mainstream. They are very much fond of staying adjoining to the forest, and their livelihood or their lifestyle is quite different from the common men or the general people of India. So the historians, the archaeologists, they have researched on the life of these Adivasis, the chief features of these Adivasis or the tribals. So according to their research or according to their survey, these Adivasis, they are away from the mainstream and they want to stay, or they are fond of staying in a remote place, in a desolate place, undisturbed place. There will be no hustle and bustle, no noise, pollution free areas adjoining to the forest. So their lifestyle and livelihood is different from the mainstream or different from the towns and cities. And it was going on till the colonial rule, when British, they became the ruler, or they came here as the imperial state and India became the colony. The lifestyle or the livelihood of these Adivasis was totally changed, and they were disturbed by the British rule. Why they were disturbed? Because British, they started interfering in their life. They started imposing many law and order upon these Adivasis or the tribals. So British this time, they created a category named Zamindars. Zamindars, this segment in the society, it was created by the British for their interest, for their self-interest. So Zamindars, they were to collect the tax from the countryside people, from the villagers, from the peasants, and simultaneously from the tribals or the Adivasis. Before the colonial rule, the Adivasis, they were entirely dependent on nature. That means the forest, they were entirely dependent on forest, and they used to do hunting and dependent upon hunting also. But since the British came and imperial state, as the imperial state, India became the colony of British, then their life was disturbed. Why? Because hunting also, it was illegal, and deforestation also, it was also illegal. So many acts and law and orders, those were imposed by British, and that is why, because they were very much indispensable on the natural aspects, or they were very much dependent on nature, and they were very much fond of staying amidst the nature, away from towns and cities, from noise, from disturbance. They wanted to stay undisturbed. They used to lead an undisturbed life, a separate category, Adivasis, known as Adivasis. And these zamindars, they started exploiting them, and by imposing tax they were exploited. It was also sort of exploitation. Forcibly anybody impose any law, that means the tax they had to pay, but it was beyond their capacity. They could not pay the tax. So the British thought an option how to collect tax from them and how to get relieved from the economic system. That means the burden from economic relief from the burden of economy or economic system. So these Adivasis or the tribals, they were forcibly, that means the zamindars, they persuaded them to borrow money from them in high interest. So they borrowed money because they were not able to pay the tax. So they were compelled to borrow money from the zamindars in high interest, but they could not repay their loan. When they could not repay their loan, then they had to work under the zamindars, that means in their fields, in their farming fields, as beggars or as bonded labor. So generation after generation they used to work as bonded labor. So their life became miserable, they were shattered. They were spending their lives in misery, in depression, in distress. But how long they will tolerate it? There is a limit of toleration. Then this category, these Adivasis or tribals, they also started agitation against the colonial rule or against the British.